Hey loves, the other day I was watching YouTube and I saw this particular hashtag going around. So I decided to do my own video response. My name is Queen Osset Haru and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and pass it on to everybody and everybody, just everybody, right, that would like it too. Please drop us a positive comment in the comment section. And if you want to get a reading done, please email me or hit me up on social media. All of my information is underneath this video. All right, guys, so let's get started. All right, so these are questions for tarot reviewers, okay? People who review tarot decks. And it doesn't say, but I also review oracle decks. And I do it a lot, actually. Now that I think about it, it's something I do a lot of. Different companies and creators send me decks and things to review. And I have like 500 decks, literally. So I just look through them and see if, they're going to be easy to use and what people like them and things like that. So I have 9 reviewer questions here that I'm going to answer for anybody who's interested. Number 1. What is your tarot experience? I started reading tarot in 1999. The first deck I ever bought was the Egyptian Tarot. And I bought it because I was going through priestess training. And part of priestess training is learning divination, how to do different forms of divination. So I was just testing them out to see which one would be my thing, All of the priestesses that I knew, the elders, they all had their thing. Some of them liked the pendulum, some liked the cards, some had crystal balls. And it was like, okay, so I need my own thing. All of my elders was telling me, pick the one that's most comfortable to you. And it turned out to be tarot, which was surprising to me because when I first looked at tarot, I thought it was difficult. I'm like, oh, this look hard. So I studied for 6 years how to read tarot. I studied interpretations and symbolisms and zodiac equivalents. And I studied Thoth and I studied the RWS system. And I just studied for a long time and practice for free reading people. And after 6 years, I started to charge $5, $25, like real nominal fees. And now I am a professional reader, and that's what I do all day. I just do readings. So it's awesome. And I didn't know that was going to happen. So it was a pleasant surprise. 2, why do you review decks? I review decks because I really love decks. And when I first started buying decks, I bought a lot of decks that didn't work for me, but I didn't know they wouldn't work for me. So I do reviews so I can tell people like what's going on with the deck, So I show each and every card. I talk about the card stock. I talk about the theme of the deck, things like that, just to try to help people who want that deck. Because in our community, as soon as a deck comes out, we're all on it. But I try to help people see if this deck is going to work for them or not. That's why I do deck reviews. So people won't end up, ooh, how did I get that up there? So people won't end up with a bunch of decks they can't actually use. Like I did. I have a lot of decks still in my collection because I kept almost all of them. But some of them, they're in storage because I never used them. And I didn't use them because the card size was too big, or the card stock was flimsy, or they were difficult to shuffle, things like that. So I like to show people that kind of stuff so they don't waste their money, Also, I do it because content creators are so awesome. The themes they come up with, the artwork on some of these decks is phenomenal. So I want to show people how beautiful these cards are. A lot of people know nothing about tarot, but one thing, tarot is definitely art. So if you're somebody who's into art and you're seeing me, put up tarot videos, check out the artwork. A lot of that artwork is fantastic. So I also do it to help the creators. They send me the deck as a gift, and then I go ahead and do the review. So I do it to help the community. I do it to help myself because I really enjoy doing it, and I do it to help the creators. Number 3, how did you get into reviewing decks? I just had so many of them. I had like 200-300 decks, and I would see people all the time say, do you have this deck? What do you think about this deck? And I would be sitting there like, oh my God, I could do videos about these. I know these. So I just started doing it on my own from my collection. And after that happened, content creators started to send me decks like, would you mind reviewing this? Or I would see a creator and be like, oh, I like your deck, and I'll be like, I would love to review that. So it started like that. And it just kept going. Next thing I know, I was doing them for US Games, and now I've done US Games, Wiser Publishing, Inner Visions Publishing, every so often, somebody else, Blue Angel, every so often somebody else, or the indie decks. I've got what was that beautiful one about dragons? Smoke, Ash, and Embers. They sent me that one to review. Sufi Tarot. If you've been following my channel, you've seen me review a lot of decks, and they were all sent to me. And I just keep showing them, except for, of course, the ones that are in my personal collection. All right, next one. Do you receive decks for review? Yes. I do not review a deck unless I receive it for review. Unless, like I said, it's in my collection. So if I already own it, I might review it. But for the most part, the ones that you see me reviewing, I review them because they've been sent to me. I don't think that it makes sense to buy decks and then review them. That's like asking somebody to promote their business, but they gotta come buy the stuff. Nobody does that in the industry. Nobody does that. If they want Beyonce, not to say that I'm Beyonce, but if they want Beyonce or Mariah Carey or Cardi B to wear their stuff, the business gives it to them and says, hey, please promote this. So I don't understand why somebody would expect me. Because somebody said to me once, they said, well, I can't send you the deck, but I can give you 50% off. And I was very polite because I really appreciated that gesture. But no, no, thank you. Why would I pay you to promote your work? That makes no sense. So all the ones you see me show are either given to me, gifted to me for the purposes of doing an honest review, or I bought them myself a long time ago and I still have them kicking around here, or I bought them from Amazon because I'm an Amazon affiliate and I'm supposed to show Amazon products. So if it's been a while and I haven't shown an Amazon product, I'll buy a few decks and, do it that way. So yeah, that's something that has never really made sense to me because I know people that do that. I know a lot of people will just buy their own decks and then show them, and I'm like, cool if you already had it, but I don't think it's fair. That to me, that's just really not unfair of somebody to expect me to promote their business and pay for the deck. I'd be sitting there like, okay, thank you, but no, thank you. There's no way in hell. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. But, to each their own way. If people want to do that, that's on them. What kind of reader are you? I'm a combination because I'm an intuitive reader, but I'm also trained in Thoth and RWS. Like, I've studied them for years, still study them to this day. I'm also a priestess. So when I do readings, it's really to help people figure out what needs to happen in their life. How can they heal themselves, for example, stuff like that. So I'm a combination of all those things: priestess, intuitive reader, traditional in some ways, untraditional, unconventional in other ways, So I'm a combination. That's the kind of reader that I am. Kind of therapeutic with it too, because a lot of things that I read are on the therapeutic, side, so it's a lot of that energy that goes into it. What kinds of decks do you gravitate towards? I gravitate towards decks that are diverse. I love decks with diversity. It doesn't have to have diversity. There are some exceptions to that rule, but most of my collection, you will see people of color, from different walks of life. Matter of fact, you'll see people from across the globe. I have all kinds of different people in my decks. I like that. I like a multicultural deck, put it like that. And I like to see big people, small people, tall people, people in wheelchairs. I like to see the the diversity of the planet represented in my decks. Those are my favorite decks. I also like decks that are culturally specific so I can learn about a specific culture. Like I have one from the Indian tradition, one from the Native American tradition. I'm eyeing one right now from the Chinese tradition. I just got one from the Sufi tradition. So I like specific cultures too, because it gives me a chance. I have one from the Norse tradition, and it gives me a chance to learn more about traditions that I don't know about. So in general, they're either multicultural or a deep dive into one culture. But I also have animal decks, and they are completely different. So I like those as well. So those are the kinds that I gravitate towards. What's most important to me is the artwork. The artwork has to draw me in, and it has to be shuffleable. That's another big thing for me. If it's a beautiful deck but I can't shuffle it, it's not going to get used. So that's another big thing. What do you like in a deck? So I like those things. I like beautiful art. I like an easy shuffle. I like a nice finish. It doesn't have to be glossy. I like glossy. I like matte as well. I like them to be a nice hand size. I don't like cards that are too big. Now, I do have a lot of cards that are huge, and I do use them. Especially like, for instance, the Inner Child Tarot. Them cards are like humongous, and I use them all the time. But I prefer the smaller ones, especially if I'm doing readings for, clients, because I can shuffle faster, get the information quicker. So those are the ones that that's what I like. That's what I like in the deck. I like different themes. I also like decks that go rogue. I don't mind a good Rider-Waite-Smith or a Toth clone, but I really love decks that go rogue, that go off and do their own thing, their own interpretation. I really enjoy that. Those are really important because it just kind of like, for instance, This Might Hurt Tarot. It is a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, but it's modernized. I love that modernization. So I love when people take those kinds of risks and create something new or add, different cards to it. Some people have 81 cards versus the traditional 78 because they've added a few of the cards of their own interpretation. I really do like that. Some people change the suits. I like that too. It doesn't matter if it's the old-fashioned way or if it's new, but I like that. I like that thinking outside the box. I'm Aquarius, so I like new and innovative things as well. What do you dislike in a deck? The only thing I dislike in a deck is when it should be multicultural, but it's not. Or if it says it's multicultural and it's like 4 cards. That really irritates me. I have several decks that are like that, and it's like advertises, being multicultural and inclusive, and then you get it and it's like 4 people of color and everybody else is like from the same spot. It's like 74 Europeans and then 4 people from different places, and it's like, this is not what I thought I was gonna get. So I dislike that. I dislike that. I will send something like that back. Or if I can't shuffle it, I can't use it. I have one deck called the Modern Witch Tarot, and I love this deck, and I kept it, but I can't use it. I just use it for like altar work because I can't shuffle it. So I really dislike that. Even though I love the artwork and I kept the deck, I can't use it with my clients. So that I dislike. I don't like a deck that's not functional. And the last one, what do you not care about in a deck? Sometimes people say like, I can't work with animal decks, that doesn't really bother me. Some people say, I don't like decks that are all masculine or all feminine. Doesn't really bother me. you know some people will say, different, like for instance, they'll say they want certain cards. Like they'll say to me, if the Six of Swords isn't attractive, I can't buy the deck. And I'm like, that's not going to stop me. If I do like certain cards, like I like the Two of Cups, I like the Lover's card, I like the Star card. But if they're not exactly what I want, I might still like the deck. So something like that is not going to really deter me. And I want to add a question number 10, because someone asked me this the other day, and I think it's important when you're talking about reviewing decks. Someone asked me, how do I remain unbiased if a creator or a publishing house gives me a deck as a gift? Like, is it hard? Because that's like, they're doing something nice for you, they're doing you a favor, they're giving you a gift. Who doesn't like a gift? How can you then talk about what you do and do not like honestly? And I really think that that's a good question. I think that's a really good question. But the way that I combat this issue is I only ask for decks that I already like. See? Isn't that clever? When they ask you, do you want to, review a deck? Go look at the deck. And if it don't look too cool, then I say, maybe not that one. What about this one? And the people that I work with, my liaisons at these companies, they'll be like, oh, okay, especially the big companies like US Games, they'll just send me a different deck. So I ask for what I want. I go look at a couple of the cards. Not too many, because I like being surprised, but I go look at the few of the cards, and if I like those few, then I'm like, okay, you can pretty much tell. You can tell if a deck has artwork you like from looking at 4 or 5 cards. You can tell if it has diversity. You could tell a little bit about the card stock by just looking at a few of the cards. So I look at them and then say, I like this. I want to show this to my audience. But if I look at the deck and think I don't like this, I don't ask for it. Why would I ask for, request, or allow a deck to come in that I know I don't like? So that's how I do that. And it's the easiest way to stay objective is just to ask for things that you already know that you are going to like. Then when you get it, all you got to do is point out the pros and the cons of that deck. Now, this is not the same when you're dealing with an independent creator, because they only have one deck to show you. So if they come to you and say, hey, this is my deck, will you show it? And you don't like it, there is no replacement. So in those cases, I just say, no, thank you. It's no point in me reviewing your deck when I already know I'm not going to like it. That's a waste of my time, your time, and that person's money. So instead of doing that, I just say no thank you and let somebody else review it. So the reason how come people always say my reviews are so positive is because I already know I'm going to like the deck before I get it. And then all I have to do is point out the pros and the cons. Also, I'm going to be very fair to these companies. None of them have ever said to me, you only get in decks if you give us positive reviews. Nobody's ever said that to me, and nobody's ever done that. Whenever I've given a review and talked about the pros and the cons, nobody's called me and been like, oh, we can't send you no more decks because you told them you didn't like the size of the card, or you didn't like the card stock, or you didn't like card number 13, Nobody's ever done that before. They're not expecting you to just come up and, say, oh, it's gleaming, it's perfect, as an influencer. They already know that. And they know it doesn't look authentic if everybody is like, oh, this deck is perfect. They want to hear what you literally have to say. And for most decks, they're pretty awesome. Seriously. So that's how I get around that part. I only review decks that I really want to show my audience. Something I'm excited about, a project I'm excited about, or they used a new kind of card stock or something like that. Anything else, I just refuse. So it's easy. Now, if you are allowing any deck that comes down the pipeline, then that's different. If people are calling you and, asking you to review things and you reviewing them knowing that you don't like them, then that's a totally different story. I wouldn't do that, Then it is going to be hard to be objective. All right, guys, let's move on. We got 2 positive comments. All right, so check these out. The first positive comment is from Kira Review. And Kiera said, I just told my sister men and women need separate cities. Then have some cities where we can meet and mingle, then go back home. I like that. I like that idea. And some women would never leave the city and vice versa for the men. Maybe, I don't know, imagination stuff. I agree with you. That would be cool. It kind of reminds me of the Amazons. You know, this island of all women, you know, they didn't let any men hang out. But I'm sure when they wanted to get pregnant, some kind of way, they found a way to come together. The last one is from Emma Ransford. Hey, Emma. Emma said, I'm an Aquarius in England. Well, cheerio. Hello, Emma. Nice to meet you. All right, guys, that was the last part of our video for today. You please come back soon because I have a lot more to say. See you later.